one of the subjects that was part of the debate in Parliament was between land ownership with title deeds or land being used for farming and production, where people would have to apply for licenses from government to be able to use that land. Which position is COSATU lobbying for between the two?
No, we are clear on that. We want people to have their title deeds. Look, we cannot afford to have an any state. We cannot afford to have a government that's going to do everything for the people. It's not sustainable. We are 3 trillion in debt now, if you look at the numbers. It's because we have adopted this flawed economic model where you can say you are going to pay social grants to people. You are going to be responsible for their housing. You are going to be responsible for their education. You are going to be responsible for their health. You can't have that. It's not sustainable as an economic model. We want people to have the freedom to do what they want with their land. So give people land and give them title deeds. And whatever kind of assistance that you give to them, you should be giving it to them because they are building something for themselves. So that you can have people being productive, but also learning to be independent, free from the assistance of the state. Now, there's a debate here on whether we should focus on land from white people and not really touch the land from rural communities or communal land under traditional leadership. At COSATU, we are the only organization actually that is explicit. Even people in rural areas, we demand that they be given title deeds. If we are a custodian of land, as the chiefs or traditional leaders are claiming to be, then you are a custodian on behalf of the people. You don't own the land. Now they pretend as if they actually own the land. That issue also we want it resolved. The Ngonyama Trust as is flawed as a law, and we want that law to be reviewed. Ngonyama Trust, we strongly believe as COSATU, it will fail if it will be taken to the Constitutional Court. So we want each and every South African to have a title deed, which is why, by the way, you would have noticed that in our own submissions again, we are wary of changing Section 25 that protects the property clause of individuals, because as COSATU, we want a person to be protected by a law that government cannot willy-nilly take his or her property at any given time. Now, if you change Section 25, because you are focused on targeting white people, in 30 years or 40 years from now, when the issue of land reform has subsided, hopefully, and let's say you have a right-wing government with an anti-worker and anti-poor posture, but we have a constitution that allows that government to use law against the poor. That government will do it, and it will pass because it would have been legalized in the constitution. President Jacob Zuma has actually done us a favor in how he has attacked the constitution over the last couple of years, and we should be learning lessons. There are so many things that he wanted to do. He was stopped by the constitution. Now we should learn that we can't predict the future. In future, there's a likelihood that we'll have a government that will actually be hostile to the poor, hostile to the workers. As the representatives of the workers, we are responsible now to lay the foundation that will block such a right-wing government in future in really bullying people and taking their property.
Now, still staying on the issue of land distribution, what do you make of the voices opposing your position, saying that what is the point of giving land to people who have no farming experience? Won't that set the economy backward?
Well, firstly, let us go back. If you look at after the Anglo-Boer War, it was the English who were actually in charge of the economy. Afrikaners were on the periphery of that economy. The Anglo-Boer War itself was about Afrikaners feeling that they were being sidelined and being treated as second-class citizens. When they were given land after 1948, when the National Party took over, by the apartheid government, they had no history of farming themselves because they didn't have land to farm. But they had a government that was clear in terms of its plan. It knew what it wanted to achieve. It put some plans in place. it funded those programs, and that is what we need. There are South Africans who are actually good at farming. So that on its own is something that we need to dismiss as a myth. The rural people who have been sidelined, for example, you go to the TPVC states, there is not one single TPVC state that was highly industrialized, not one. So the question is to be asked, those who did not move from the TPVC states to come and work under apartheid South African government, how were they surviving? Through farming. They were practicing farming. The reason is, we talk about them as if they don't understand farming, is because they were only doing subsistence farming, because they didn't have land and resources to be able to go commercial. Now let us tap into that. Let us tap into that organic knowledge and make sure that we can assist and train those people, reskill them and give them enough resources to be able to expand and move away from subsistence and elevate those individuals into commercial farmers. But also we need to open agricultural colleges. We need to look at the curriculum. Let's send those young people who are sitting at home with degrees and diplomas that the economy is unable to accommodate. Let's send them to those colleges so that they study to be veterinarians and explore other fields where they can then go into farming, and then we won't have that debate. So for us, really, that debate is a non-starter. And to say that it is going to collapse the economy, South Africa has got 60,000 commercial farmers all across currently, feeding a population of 56 million, including taking some of those products and exporting them outside of the country. So that is not sustainable. As a model, it is not sustainable. So there's a huge gap there. We need to fill that gap. There are opportunities. What we need is to make sure that we properly fund whatever programs that we come out with, and we come out with coherent policies that will help those people who want to venture into farming, and make sure that those individuals are able to compete.
Okay. Now, with regards to the submission that COSATU made in Parliament, can you expand on that, on the details of the submission?
No, our submission in Parliament is very simple. Like I said earlier, that we do support expropriation without compensation. We do. What we are uncomfortable with is that there is no evidence so far to show that the Constitution as is stops government from expropriating without compensation. Actually, under Section 25, there is a clause that allows government to expropriate without compensation as long as whatever land that is expropriated is for the public good. So that clause has not been tested in any court. So the rush to amend the section when we have not actually implemented the clauses that are there and test them, we feel is ill-advised. So we have made it very clear in Parliament to say, no, let us expropriate with the Constitution that we have now and see what the Constitutional Court, because that clause has to be interpreted by the Constitutional Court. So that is our argument, is to say, stop touching Section 25, take the Constitution as is, go to the Constitutional Court, expropriate one farm, make your arguments in court, and see if the court, in interpreting that clause, is going to block you or is going to allow you to get away with it. And then we can have a conversation about amending the Constitution. We are saying this because when it comes to expropriation without compensation, it is even more specific, that clause, because it says property ownership or property, the clause that protects property cannot stop government from pursuing something that is in the good of the public. Whether government wants to build roads, build a dam, or in this instance, pursue the policy of land reform that itself is mentioned in the Constitution. So some people are uncomfortable with that. But we have seen this, for an example, if you go to the labor brokers. With the labor brokers, we had a law where for a long time wasn't tested in a constitutional court. It took one single case to be taken to the Constitutional Court for the Constitutional Court to say, you actually do have the powers to force the employers to employ these workers after 3 months. So that is what we are arguing for, is to say, let us have a precedent case, a test case, and then we can have a conversation. We have an expropriation bill, for an example, that is currently in the works. It is there in Parliament. We want that expropriation bill to be finalized. And if people feel that maybe Section 25 doesn't go far enough, they can make those amendments on that expropriation bill, which means take the clauses you would have put to a constitution and add them to that expropriation bill before you pass it. We have another bill, the amendment bill of ESTA, the Extension of Certificate of Tenure Act, that is supposed to protect farm workers from being evicted. It has been in Parliament for more than 4 years, and they are dragging their feet in really passing that bill, that amendment bill. We also want all of those amendments that people have to be submitted to that bill before it becomes a law, so that as we take this process forward, we already have got laws that go far enough to be able to protect government, so that those that want to challenge government can be inhibited by those laws.
Now, lastly, as we close, what happens in a case where you have a farmer who employs a certain number of people and that land is taken without compensation? What's going to happen to those workers that he employs?
Well, look, for example, COSATU is very specific on the issue of expropriation. We have said that firstly we want land that is lying around, that is not being utilized, to be targeted. And we have also said that a piece of land with an absentee landlord, meaning individuals, for example, who own land, but who are not tending to it, who are doing nothing to it, but who are just putting it there, stopping anyone from utilizing it, be it a municipality that wants to improve services or a government that wants to do something on behalf of the people. That is the land that has to be expropriated. And we have also said we want to expropriate land from all those white people who did not buy their piece of land. Because we know of instances where people were evicted and people were given that piece of land without them paying anything. That land has to be brought back. We are specific on that. And fourthly, we have said we want to expropriate the land where individuals actually did buy the land, but they got loans that were below market from the apartheid government. So those people cannot then charge market prices when they engage with the state. So those individuals got their piece of land through corrupt means. If you did not pay for it, we are not going to buy it from you. So that is our principle. So we're not talking about blanket expropriation here. We say those that can prove that actually I bought this and I have a loan with the bank that shows that I actually bought this piece of land. No, you can't do that. You can't expropriate that. But there is land that was stolen, where people were evicted, where people actually didn't pay any money for the land, but they got loans from an apartheid state. That's taxpayers' money. You are not supposed to get a piece of land from an illegitimate regime like apartheid regime. So you bring back that piece of land because you stole it with the connivance of the state. So with regards to say, now you have expropriated the land, what then happens to the workers? Workers firstly have to get title deeds because workers, farm workers actually are glorified slaves in this country. They don't have access to amenities. For an example, some farmers stop government from building schools on their farms. So these farm workers cannot access municipal services. They don't have electricity, they don't have water, they don't have any sanitation. So what you do is that you give those workers title deeds and you work with the local authorities to make sure that they have access. So those farm workers can access RTP houses, for example, like other lower income households. And then from there, you come out with a program that assists them as to how to utilize that piece of land to make sure that they are able to be productive and take care of themselves. Like we have said, we need a post-settlement strategy before you start with that process. On the periphery, on the sidelines, you should be starting another process of a state financial institution that will make sure that your developmental agenda with regard to land reform is supported and financed. And that post-settlement strategy will be able to target certain diverse instances. For example, some people only want to build houses. They don't want to farm. So those people should have access to cheap finance, accessible finance. Then farm workers, you assist them. The black farmers, emerging farmers, you assist them. And a number of other people who want to utilize land in a productive way.